joining us, or?
He will not be joining us today.
Okay, let's go. So let's call to order Kentucky Community and Technical College Board of Regents Audit Committee, most important committee of all the committee structure. And Jessica, if you would, as parliamentarian, please call the roll.
Chair Cox.
Here.
Vice Chair Hamilton.
Present.
Josh Gibbons, Regent Gibbons. Regent Hunt. Regent Martin.
Here.
Regent McGraw.
Here.
Regent Powers.
Here.
Regent Stevens. Regent Sutherland.
Here.
We have quorum.
Outstanding. I see where Regent Stevens is waiting in the lobby. Did I see?
I think he just joined us.
So Jessica, do you need to hear him say here, or are we good?
We're good. Chelsea can mark down when he joined the meeting.
Okay. So we need to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was November 11th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Move approved.
And a
Second McGraw.
Thank you. Jessica, we'll let you do the roll call.
Any objection to the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none, the motion passes by consensus.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Todd, I'd like for you to provide us an update on the progress of the forensic audit. We're going to be talking about a lot of audits today. We'll start there.
Okay. So as you know, this was a completed project last December of 2024. And we've been working on this since then. We have updates on all of the areas, and I'll just talk through them. I'll primarily focus on those areas that were still outstanding since our last meeting in November. Account 10,001 had been marked as completed. I would just note that I'm continuing to get quarterly reports from our financial staff, who are sending me the list of all the transactions that occur within a quarter. And last 3 months of 2025, that was approximately 27,000 transactions that went through the system. Everything balances out to zero, which it's supposed to do. So everything is in good shape, and we continue to monitor that. On the affiliated foundations, we now mark this one as completed. Megan Stith and the people at the various foundations across the system have been working to try to make sure that we tackled all of these things. And primarily, if we go to the next slide, because I think this visually explains things a little bit better, on the status of documentation, as we've presented this, every time there have been some pink slides indicating that there were things that still needed to be done. All of those have been taken care of. This document will always be a work in progress, because at various points throughout the system, they're redoing their annual plan. They've done the majority of all the things they need to do around the policies. They get their board documentation completed. So there will always be things that are in progress. And there are some things that those particular foundations are not required to do. But they have worked on all of the recommendations. All of the documentation is now being done on a regular basis and being tracked through this document status. And then executive compensation. This is now also marked as completed. The market salary review has been done for executive compensation, and salary scales are being part of the review process. And there is some policies that are in the process of being implemented. They will ultimately be approved by Dr. Quarles, but those policies are moving forward. And a new executive contract template is going to be implemented as of July 1st of 2026. So the recommendations to align the system, to conduct annual reviews, to document bases for supplementary allowances, all of that is being built into various policies and contract templates. So the work that we've had to do around this particular item has now been completed. I'll pause at the end of each one if anyone has any questions about them particularly. FERPA compliance, and this particular one, we were waiting on a policy that was worked on primarily by our registrars. That policy has been developed and updated, is going to be presented to the president's leadership team, I believe in March, and then will be approved by the KCTCS president. There will be a new FERPA policy communicated in the same manner that we always communicate new policies and policy changes. So again, the recommendations of this have been met. There, as soon as the policy is reviewed, we have the plan to roll that out and to implement the new FERPA compliance policy. On the financials, there's a couple of things I would note here. We would now constitute these as completed. As we worked through some of this, one of the things that we discovered on the financial end is that there were a lot of policies that were really procedures. It was more about here's how you do something rather than the policy of the way that should be overseen. And so we went back and looked. All of our policies that we actually have do align with state requirements regarding documentation, et cetera. There are some places where I think we need to do some changes around our procedures, but we've been thinking through this pretty clearly and trying to understand that a policy should be something that stands for a long period of time, where the procedures can be updated should dollar amounts change or deadlines change, et cetera. But we have gone through, we've determined that our internal policy requirements align with our state requirements. We did look at our system capabilities. We've automated as much as we possibly can, but we are trying to track these various items. And so we want to build in more long-lasting policies. For example, if it involves an employee travel, we'll have guidelines around what constitutes acceptable travel or not. The mileage amount, for example, probably shouldn't be in policy. That should be in a procedure so that when that amount changes, we only have to update the procedure rather than having to go through an entirely new policy process to make that happen. So the recommendations that were made by KPMG have been completed on the financials.
Hey, Todd, just within, not exact, how many pro cards are we talking about system-wide?
I had that number at our last meeting. I don't have it in front of me, but I will get that to you.
I'm just curious more than anything else. I mean, that's a kind of the bane of my existence throughout the years, is that we always those tend to proliferate and get a little bit further out there than what they need to be. But I was just curious more than anything else. Don't spend any time on it.
Yeah, we will get to that number. We try to restrict those very carefully, and I appreciate our finance staff does that. As a matter of fact, when I got here, I asked about whether I should have a pro card, and I saw the deer in the headlights look in their eyes that they didn't want to tell the new guy that he shouldn't have a pro card. But I shouldn't have a pro card, and I'm very content with that. And so we do have a very limited number of people who do that, but I will get you the exact number in the next day or so.
Okay, thank you.
The Higher Ed Innovation LLC and Superlative Group recommendations were really around our procurement processes. We had marked those as completed in November. We have developed the new policies, procedures for doing things. Training has begun. There are now quarterly procurement meetings to give training to people. And we want to continue to try to find ways that we can support our employees to be successful in this area, including both new employees who are coming in and trying to grapple with the question of how procurement's done, and even long-term employees who have been here for a long time. And it's hard sometimes to remember, if you've only done it on occasion, what all the policies and procedures are. So there's training that's been developed. There's some that will be accessible for people to have outreach, but there are also quarterly meetings that are happening to try to make sure we continue to provide training around our procurement processes, including that checklist. Oh. Yes, Regent Powers?
I just had a quick question. Would you be able to share the information with us once that's available so we can share with, our local teams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do know that our procure to pay folks in business services have sent out notes and started doing some of the training already. But I can send you copies of what they produce.
The only reason I ask is because I oversee professional development, and that's usually a question that I receive a lot. So I just would include it on a link to it on our professional development portal.
Great. Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, we are happy to do that.
Thank you.
I won't spend a lot of time on marketing and PR because this has been completed for close to a year. Marketing team stepped right in and addressed this in a number of ways. So that one has continued to be completed. On our personnel and unit investigation, we're now marking this one as completed. That was done in November. Our compliance officer, Mallory Yeaman, implemented a web platform to assure regular policy review. The OPEB Trust Medicare Advantage Plan went out for request for proposal, and we brought that back in. That actually reduced some of the costs. And a review of the compensation platform is concluded. HR is now working on compiling all of that information and putting it into a presentation to discuss internally with our leadership across the system and trying to determine how those results get evaluated as part of this year's compensation strategy. And then credential verification is part of the policy, and human resources is going to be working with Dean Dorton as part of their engagement on onboarding procedures to make sure that people are aware of what policies exist and how to provide best practices for our new employees. So we're marking that one as complete. The Pro Cards item here, again, we had noted that as complete in November, and we can send you the information around the Pro Cards and how we're managing that process moving forward.
Hey, Todd, go back to the $850,000 saved in the MA plan.
Yes.
Did that also result in diminished benefit, or how are we able to, I mean, that's 1.7 over 2 years. That's significant.
We were actually quite surprised when that came back. That was not any reduction in benefit to any of our employees. It was a savings, and the guidelines of the current plan are almost identical, maybe a little better in the new plan than they were. We hadn't seen a rate increase in more than 3 years on that, and so we were actually surprised to see that the number that came in was lower. Now, there will be some increases over the next couple of years that we're anticipating and planning for, but it continues to support our employees really well. And I often say, if I had a time machine and could go back, I would become an employee while that trust still existed, because I think it's a great benefit to our employees.
Yeah, who was it with? Who do we?
I believe it was Anthem.
Yeah, that it is amazing if you know that being the case. That just tells you they've been making some pretty good money on us for the previous year.
It moved from Anthem to Humana. Excuse me. It's with
Humana.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. I mean, because that's a dollar for dollar sort of savings that you can't beat.
Yes. Yes. So that's significant, and it is part of our OPEB trust, and so it's a benefit to the trust as part of that. Let's see, Pro Cards, the voluntary separation agreements, that has now been marked as completed. A voluntary separation agreement template has been created, shared with the HR peer team. Our directors have also been instructed across the system that system office should be consulted when there's a voluntary separation agreement. There was an internal decision to be made not to create a policy that's so rigid that it's all followed the same way. Some situations may require some different massaging on a case-by-case basis. And so the determination was made internally that we didn't want to be controlled by doing it always the same way, depending on whatever the particular circumstances of an individual might be. But the work around the recommendations has been done, and we'll be moving forward I believe, after the 1st of July. Questions there? And then the carry forward was not part of the forensic audit. We will be sharing that with the full board at the next budget meeting. We're having some conversations about how we talk about the budget in a number of ways. And because it's part of an overall picture, we want to be able to present that as one holistic picture. But we've been working, we've done a lot of research in trying to look into this carry forward and fund balance. It was intended to be part of the forensic audit. KPMG did not take it on, so we've been doing that work internally, and we'll bring a report to you at the next budget meeting. And so with that, I'd stand for any questions. I do want to say the work that you've seen done is not the work of just the people you see at the top of each of those items. There were literally dozens of people who were involved in the process of implementing and working on these things and trying to review it. We hope we've demonstrated we took the recommendations from KPMG seriously, and that we believe that we've tried to implement as many as we can. On 1 or 2 occasions, for example, the 10,001 account, we felt that it would actually it would be more problematic to do it the way that they recommended. But overall, we believe that we've tried to move these things forward. And I just want to commend the team of people who did all the really heavy lifting to make this done. And so with that, that would complete the work around the forensic audit.
Any questions on the forensic audit? And Todd, I will say over the years, this has been a wonderfully progressive process that I think has made us better. So I appreciate yours and everybody else's efforts around making sure that we, had addressed these things in the way that we did. But it's an ongoing process. I think that's the lesson I've learned from these things is that as soon as you think you're up to date, you need to go back and start over again. So,
Right.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So, Todd, I think you still got it. You're going to talk about the Fire Commission audit, right?
Yes. We've had 2 outstanding items with the Fire Commission, and we do have Carrie Wilburn on here if you have any specific questions for her. The first audit was from the Auditor of Public Accounts. There were 4 findings, 2 observations, which we discussed at the last meeting. The Fire Commission worked to put together a similar corrective action plan to what we just presented to you around the forensic audit. And that corrective action plan was submitted to the Auditor of Public Accounts who provided the audit. And so they accepted that corrective action plan, which is in the process of moving forward. There is a copy of that available to you in the notes. It was one of the documents uploaded. So we've worked together, KCTCS and the Fire Commission have worked closely together to try to make sure that each of these items was addressed. And if you have any specific questions around any of them, Carrie helped to write that, so she's probably a better person to speak to with that, but they've done great work and we've been in close contact with them.
No, I appreciate Dr. Kilburn and Chelsea. I appreciate your help with that because it was my first time ever responding to a corrective action for an audit. So Todd, your outline, and then Chelsea helped us kind of craft it for submission. That was hugely helpful for us to get started with that because it was a new experience for me. But yeah, we have, I think we were fortunate with the findings that they did have. We had already started to address them and they accepted the corrective action plan, and we have not gotten any additional requests from them. So I think all in all, it went as well as you can expect.
So Carrie, how often will this take place? These kinds of audits with this, is this regularly scheduled, or how does that work?
No, these were not regularly scheduled. They actually, I guess, were requested before I took the position. I think they came about as a result of there was an investigation and some change in administration. So, I think that was part of it. From my perspective, it did highlight a lot of things that we were already changing, but some things we could even do better, particularly where we're dealing with public tax dollars with
Gotcha.
most of our programs. So, like I said, it was one of those experiences where it was definitely a good learning experience for me, particularly being new to this position and how to craft our policies and procedures in a way that took care of everything we needed to take care of and be good stewards of the public's money. So,
Very good.
And Chair
Any other-
Cox,
Yes,
I would just add, I believe when Dr. Quarles arrived, it was part of his request to do this, since we were doing other audits. Since we had new leadership, let's do a baseline check, make sure what things we need to correct since we're in the
Gotcha.
midst of audit season to make sure that we're on the right footing.
appreciate the clarification. I was just curious as to whether or not it was, on a regular cadence or, just a kind of a sporadic sort of thing as needed. And I think that's the answer. Okay, any questions on the fire commission audit? Okay, so now as we look internally, Todd, you and the folks from Dean Dorton are going to provide us an update on the internal audit.
And we do have Jody Wren here from Dean Dorton. We've worked on one particular area as part of a consulting, which I will speak to. But in general, I'll turn the overall internal audit report over to Jody at this point.
Thank you. Pleased to be with you here today. The internal audit results for this quarter were really solid. No high-risk findings or issues were identified, and overall controls across the areas reviewed were functioning as intended. While there were some opportunities noted, management has already taken action or agreed, with a direction to move forward. In this quarter, we finished a business office review at South Central Community Technical College, and that wraps up all of our budgeted business office reviews for this year according to our audit plan. And then we also completed a system-wide bad debt consulting engagement, as Todd had mentioned. No IT audits were completed this quarter, and I believe that was in coordination with the IT team. They were working on some things and requested some delay in bringing, but I think they're moving forward. With regards to the business office audit, we only found one moderate risk observation related to a fixed asset process where an asset wasn't written off that had been disposed of. And they've already taken steps to address that. With regards to the consulting engagement, we worked with Todd and the teams at the schools to kind of look at the process. And I know some things are moving, I think, in the legislature and those kind of things, but because the system office it was thrust upon them to begin taking more action with regards to school bad debt. So these aren't necessarily student loans in the federal student loan perspective, but bad debt or fees and things that students might own the actual colleges, and some new collection activities that had to be happen at the school levels that had previously been happening, I think, through the Treasury. So we identified through interviews and some surveys that we conducted that there were 6 improvement opportunities to focus on enhancing consistency and effectiveness. So these are not really control failures per se, but really more operational improvements. And we have suggested and spoke with Todd a few times throughout this process, looking at centralizing training and resources, standardizing and automating collection processes, improving the use of third-party collection tools that are out there, strengthening communication with students, addressing some staffing capacity issues, and promoting early intervention and financial education. So those were some areas that we identified. As you know, we do track the corrective action plans previously issued through the reviews that we do, and across all prior audits, we found that the action plans have either been completed or actively in progress right now. And we've, updated that list. There's no past due action items identified as of December 31st. And looking ahead, we are still looking and expect to complete our audit plan that was approved earlier in the fiscal year, and don't expect to, have any postponement of those. And we know that you all will be in the process of, doing or you're in the process of doing a request for proposal, since it's been several years since we were awarded the contract. And so probably the risk assessment will be, we'll talk with Todd about the appropriateness of doing that, depending on the results of the request for proposal response. But again, overall, we were pleased with the results we had, the cooperation we had, and our relationship with management as a whole, and are pleased to say that no significant risk issues were identified or require escalation at this time. And with that, I'm free to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jody? I think, again, this is another one we made good progress on. I guess one of the questions, so what is more of the IT part of this on the agenda coming up?
Yes. Yeah. They'll be working with the IT team, and I think I've already started working on some of these. Yep.
Okay. Todd, any comments on this before we move on?
And the other thing I would note is the part of what drove us to talk to Dean Dorton about the bad debt issue is the fact that the Department of Revenue was doing debt collection for us and then ceased doing that. And so we were trying to figure out, we weren't seeing the kinds of results that we had through the Department of Revenue, and what could we do to try to manage this? There's no person at any one of our colleges whose sole responsibility is debt collection. So it's often the chief business officer who's having to call students or try to work that out. So as we work through it, we have determined House Bill 379, which has been proposed by two of our representatives, would require that the Department of Revenue take that debt collection back on. So it was a little hard for us to talk about how we might respond to this and what we might do, because how we do it depends on the outcome of that bill in particular. We would like to though, talk to our business officers, we would like to try to standardize how we do this across all 16 colleges, try to provide them with some templates. That was one of the recommendations from Dean Dorton. How we track it, can we build in some systems? How can we help prevent students from getting into this place? That's going to be a question with our student affairs officers. So it's a fairly large undertaking, and how we address it depends to some degree on the outcome of House Bill 379. So we will keep you apprised of that. We really asked for this because we think that it will help the financial statements of all of our colleges if we can get a handle on this. But the approach we take really depends on the outcome of that bill.
Todd, how does it tie at all, or how does it tie back to the recommendation that we just looked at around AR in one of the audit recommendations? Does it have any impact on that?
On which audit recommendation? I'm sorry.
The one about treatment of accounts receivable?
Yes. That is, as we've looked at how we do accounts receivable, again, that's one of those where we've tried to standardize it on a number of fronts. This is one where the standardization has not taken place.
Right.
And so, but I think we're finding that the more we do things consistently as a system, the better off we are, even though it's a heavy lift at first, because people have to learn to do it, and not every college finds the same benefit as another college. Right. But we do think that if we can do it for a standardized way, the same timelines when people reach out to students, if we can do that consistently, so it's a KCTCS message rather than 16 individual messages that we're putting out there, we think that will be much more successful for us.
think so.
And if I can add, we spoke to Buddy throughout this process, and he shared a lot of things the system has already put in place that the colleges may or may not have been aware of. So that's where sometimes some of that training comes in that I think will be tools that could help, the colleges in their endeavor as well.
Very good. Any other questions on the internal? Okay, so as you know, at our last meeting, we talked about internal audit RFP process. Just good practice for all audit committees to go through this process and to make decisions based on current circumstances and situations, and make sure that we're keeping our own nose clean in the selection process of how we do it. So Todd, you want to give us an update on the internal audit RFP? And again, this is the internal, and so that's just always, we have so many audits, I always like to draw the difference.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Cox. We, at the December meeting, the Board of Regents approved the request for proposal process, which is to include 3 system office people, 3 system people of the colleges, and 1 member of the audit committee. And want to thank Regent Stevens for being willing to volunteer and help us with that. We have put the internal audit RFP out. We have, over the weekend, I was working on many of the 100 questions that we've been asked by people to try to respond to what we're really looking for regarding this. We're in the process of starting to set up meetings so that we can review the final proposals when they come in. And when we have conversations, any member of the audit committee will be welcome into those conversations in an advisory capacity. We'll have a vote. Regent Stevens will have a vote. And so he can make sure that we're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing in the process. But our goal is that we will be set with a final decision and ready to go by July 1st. So there's a lot of meeting and a lot of process around what this looks like. How do they meet the requirements? Who are the people that are being proposed to be our partners in the process? And of course, a number of the audit firms are looking to answer the question, who is KCTCS? And, tell us a little more about your system and how you operate. So we're in that process. We expect that by mid-March, we'll start holding meetings around this request for proposal.
So Todd, when do you expect to have a recommendation for the board?
So per the process, we will bring the results from the committee to the board. And we anticipate that will be in the meeting prior to the March meeting, which would be, I believe, the June meeting will be in May, I believe.
Okay.
We would make that the June, actually.
Good deal of work to be done between now and then.
Yes. Yes.
James,
I'm not sure
we're
Regent
glad you
Stevens knew what he
volunteered.
was. Yeah, I'm not sure Regent Stevens knew what he was signing up for, but he's in now and it's too late. So we're keeping.
We got him. We got him. All right. Any questions about the RFP process? Again, I think it's a healthy process to go through. Best practices that you do these things. So we'll need everyone's best thinking as we get to a recommendation on this. It's an important aspect. So, okay. So we're kind of at a place where we've been pretty efficient with the updates in the business that we've needed. Any new business that needs to come to the committee to address. And I always say this is a place where, as a member of this committee, if you have any questions on your mind at all, this is the time. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're reporting to the Board of Regents that we have been diligent in our efforts to make certain the right things are happening from an audit perspective. So I'm very comfortable with where Todd and his staff and the help we've gotten from Jody and her staff. I think it's become light years. So, but I think it's I always like to say, as a regent, as a trustee, if you've got any questions, now's the time.
I do have one minor question. And I should have brought this up earlier, but in the chart that has the status of documentation, Madisonville is noted as not recognized /NA. And so that is page, let's see. Just trying to see what page that was on.
Yeah, under status of documentation.
Yes, under status of documentation. It just says not recognized /NA. And so I just had a question about that.
So all of our foundations have some type of relationship with the KCTCS Foundation that works with each of them. Madisonville is completely independent. And
Okay.
so therefore, they're not part of the same audit of processes because they handle things on their own.
Thank you.
I might add, and this is Regent Stevens, I may add, I brought that up to the people in Madisonville, and I learned quickly, just leave it alone, as Todd and I talked about. So they want to do their own thing, and they are very fortunate to have great support and financial support. So that's where that stands.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts?
I just want to also emphasize what you said, Russell, in regards to we're light years ahead now of what we were before. And we've got real clear, crisp information and no hidden agendas. And I really appreciate that, Todd, and for you and your staff.
Yeah, and I think we have to hold ourselves accountable to it as well, of making certain that the right things are being surfaced. And if any time along the way you don't feel they are, this is
Yes.
always let me know. I always tell people if you're comfortable letting folks inside the organization who are doing the work, that's my first choice. If you're not, you need to let your audit chair know, and that's me. So we always have that avenue available, and we want everyone to feel very comfortable.
And of course, Todd's taking his cues from the excellent chairmanship from
I don't know
Chair
about that.
Cox.
Absolutely.
I don't know. The only other new business I have is I feel like I haven't congratulated Shannon. I haven't seen her since so congratulations, Shannon.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
She's still glowing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we have the lights on in the room. It's just Shannon.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, if there's no other new business, then that's going to conclude our meeting. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And the second, I believe, is that you, Regent Sutherland?
It was.
Okay, thank you. Any objection to the motion to adjourn? Motion passes by consensus. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you. Good seeing you.